So what is this course all about? Well, it's pretty well laid out in Canvas, where you have an introduction, which tells you what it is you're going to learn in this module, which comes from the overview. You have readings, lectures, and videos, which is what you're watching right now. Typically, there'll be two types of assignments. Some weeks there'll only be one, some weeks there'll be two. One is individual and one is team. This is why there's no discussion boards, because you have to work as a team to do one assignment. Module reflections just summarize what you should have learned in this module, and a little refresher quiz, which is only 3 problems, and it doesn't count. So you can just test your own knowledge without any stress. Now for your idea, I expect you to come up with an idea that can reach 100 million in revenue in 5 years. And why do I pick that number? Because I want you to dream bigger. I don't want you to dream small. The thing is, the amount of work between a $10 million company and a $100 million company is exactly the same. So why not get more out of it? 30% of your grade is team-oriented, 70% is individual. Now, what if you have free riders, meaning you have people who don't do the work? Well, you're a company. You have the right to fire people. And if you fire someone, what happens is they're no longer your problem. They become my problem. Assignments are specific problems to be solved. Cases tend to be more about situations. The thing is, cases are considered to be depth questions. So if you just write 2 sentences, it's going to get marked wrong. I expect you to go through the entire case and glean out every last detail. Now for your final project, each team delivers a business sketch, which is basically a 5-page presentation, well, 5-page paper, plus a presentation, which is you clean up your old presentation. Your individual project, you will be assigned somebody else's pitch, and so you will act as a VC and decide whether or not this is investable. Over the course of this, you are going to go out and talk to other stakeholders, talk to other people and see what they think of your idea. And you need to get customer feedback. There's a final exam in this class. It's 2 hours long, multiple choice, just to make sure you actually learn this stuff. Anyway, it's just basically a test of knowledge. Technology in the venture means you can scale it, and that's why you use technology. These are technology ideas. These are not technology ideas. If you find that it won't work out, it's okay to quit on your idea. And if it's late in the class, then all I ask you to do is write a report and say why you think is a failure. Did you overturn all the rocks and everything? I had one team do that one semester, and they got an A because they were very well justified on why they killed their idea. But if you have questions, check with me. This is a grading. This is the way it breaks down. This is the grade range. Keep in mind this grade range is not the standard range. I have one student who screamed bloody murder at me because he thought 90 was an A. And I said, where'd you get that idea? It's not in the syllabus. It's not on Canvas. It's nowhere. In the syllabus, it outlines what all the modules are and what it is we're going to cover, what's due. And so you can look at this as an overview. And it's basically a nice summary for you. There have been some complaints about this course, which I found actually weren't true. This class is all about teams, not necessarily. Some people have complained I grade ridiculously hard, and I want to see if that was true. And as it turns out, the average GPA in this class is about 3.3 to 3.5. If anything, I don't grade hard enough. The homework has nothing to do with the assignments. And this is because people aren't used to the assignments. This is a critical thinking class. I am not going to ask you questions about your knowledge about something. I'm going to ask you about applying that knowledge. And why? Because when you go out into industry or start a company, this is what you're going to have to do. This is what MIT taught me. And here's an example. Suppose that you took a class on wound closure, and so you found out these are the different kinds of wound closures. And so a knowledge quiz, and this is what you're used to, is what kind of wound closures are there, what technique requires sutures. And so, based on your knowledge of this and memorization, you would get that right. That's high school. You're in college now. A question I would ask you is, Leave Me Alone is a tree cutting service that does landscaping. Juniper Ash falls out of a tree and the tree limb gashes her leg open. What issues do you look for in the wound? How would you seal it? And how much does it cost? Application question. That's what you're going to be asked for. The thing about people who can think conceptually, see the larger problem. And so, incremental thinkers think at this speed. Conceptual thinkers think at this speed. And for those of you who take TM200 with me, you can also go faster in execution by using techniques that I call the groove. So the keys in this class is be rigorous, ask early, ask for help, and take notes. When you read through things, write your own notes. Those notes will be extremely valuable to you. I am a bad reader. I can't remember anything, but I'm a great note taker. I understand what's important and what's not important. And so normally I'll just totally forget about something and open my notes. Like, oh, okay, that's how you do it. Concepts apply to applications. Those applications are driven by your decision making. Details change, but underlying concepts don't. The thing is, information obsolescence in 3 to 5 years. So how can people have, careers that last decades? And it's because of education. You learn to think and you learn to adapt. Don't wait to the last minute with homework. And the thing is, I'm going to give you enough hints that you're going to save yourself a lot of time. Read the slides ahead of time, and if you have questions, ask. Assignments must be one file, although you can have supporting files. Like, for example, if you do a bunch of calculations in Excel, you have to cut out and paste those solutions, but you can include the Excel file to get partial credit. In acceptable formats are Word, PDF, and PowerPoint. One student tried to send me an image off his phone for homework. Yeah, that's not Word, PDF, and PowerPoint. But those are the only formats that I'm going to accept. So what is entrepreneurship? Well, there are 3 kinds of entrepreneurship. One is small business, like if you wanted to open a cupcake stand. This is what W.P. Carey teaches you. The other is productizing research, and this is what our professors do. And then finally, there's scalable startups. When you think about scalable, it means the more I build, the cheaper it's going to become. But you always hit a point where all of a sudden the cost will start going up. And that's because you got to buy land, or the tools become too expensive or something like that. And so your profit goes down. What's the easiest way to have scaling? Technology. It's easily accessible, smaller, cheaper, faster, and deeper, wider, faster for networks. Now, what's hard to scale? Well, personal selling. If you've got to knock door to door, you're never going to make it. Because how do you sell $1 million of something if you have to knock on doors? There's only one successful selling that I know of that has been done personally. And that's Girl Scout cookies. Oh my God, when those little girls knock on your door with those big eyes, and they say, would you like to buy some cookies? And it's like, okay, give me 5 boxes, or I hand over my wallet. Or the worst thing is they get the parents involved. In the break room, they have that list, and you write down, I'll buy 5 boxes, and then the parent comes in, you're only buying 5 boxes? Oh, I meant to write 50 boxes, yeah. Maybe it's driven by an individual, and this is like the issue with restaurants. Maybe they have really high entry costs, like legal or regulatory. The tools are too expensive. For example, if you want to start a company, you're talking about at least $100 million just to have a facility. And maybe the expansion costs are going to be too much, that you can't scale it cheaply. The way we do research is you come up with a concept, you find proof of concept, that this concept will actually work, which is called feasibility. And then you move to validation to show that, yes, I can actually do it. It doesn't have to be perfect. And so that's your prototype. Verification means I could do it more than once. And of course, that matters in production. And in production, you continue to control it, improve, and grow it. And this is the premise of Six Sigma and a lot of other theories. And so what happened is they applied these principles to startups. Now, who's better at this, engineers or businessmen? Well, engineers are better with the stuff on the left. They tend to be deeper thinkers, but the businessmen move faster. So what's best? Well, if you can bridge both worlds, then you've got the best of both worlds, and that's what you're trying to do. And so businesses change. This is the traditional business, which is W.P. Carey. This is a modern business, which is about being resourceful and being a lot cheaper. And so the focus today is on modern marketing and not traditional marketing. But the traditional marketing theory is still valid. It's still worth knowing. And so nobody is really right. Both things matter. Because there are no simple answers. Where are you in your life cycle? If you're later in the life cycle, then traditional marketing means more. There's a tendency to think my view is better than anybody else's, and that gets you into trouble. You have to understand the concepts and apply critical thinking. And again, education lasts you a lifetime. Here are some problems where there is no right answer. And so this is where social science, nobody knows the answer. So what's the right one? For example, should Tesla sell online or should they have dealerships? Now, Musk has said, oh no, it's all about online. Here's the problem Musk is running into. That's fine for the innovators, meaning the first 10% of the market. But when you want to start going to the 10 to 50% of your market, now you're talking about selling to mom and dad. Do you think mom and dad are going to buy a car online? Or are they going to want a dealership where they could test drive and see if it actually works? You're selling a smart basketball. I mean, it's got sensors on it, so it'll tell you how good your shot is or how to make corrections. Nike says they want to put it in your stores, and you think I've got it made. Well, the problem is Nike is going to take a big chunk of your profits. That's the problem with teaming up with these people. Not only that, but the Nike store's got 1,000 products in it. Who is pushing yours? Is this the best thing? Or are you better off just selling it on your own? Do you want to be the first mover or the fast follower? Traditionally, it's the fast followers who win. If you think about technology, none of the first movers are still around. They all got beat out. Entrepreneurship grew and flourished for all these things. Because of the internet, quality is now transportable. It's everywhere. Entry costs into markets are a lot less. Globalization, if you can't find it here in the United States, you can find it somewhere else. Capital is available. Corporations need you. they need entrepreneurs. Why? Because they're very bad at innovating. They're good at making line extensions like Excedrin and Excedrin PM, something like that. However, they're not good at creating new products, and this is why they buy small companies. Who ends up being an entrepreneur? Nobody in particular. It's open to pretty much everyone, and as you could see, most of them have bachelor's degrees. There are pros and cons between every type. There's no one personality type being entrepreneurship. Personality trait theory doesn't work. It's been debunked. But you tend to have 5 characteristics when you're an entrepreneur. You're passionate about what you're doing. You're resilient. You have a sense of self. You have confidence. You're flexible enough to listen to others, and you can develop a vision. 1 and 2 are non-negotiable. The other 3 you can get from others. And the question is does this fulfill your dreams? What a lot of people talk about is find your passion, find your passion. That's what they tell you all the time in entrepreneurship. Is that true? Well, Mark Cuban and a bunch of other entrepreneurs are saying no, and I'm telling you no. And this is why. My daughter, who graduated from ASU with a double major in 3 years and graduated cum laude, she started her own business, and she loved photography and had a photography business. And she found a niche in photography, pet photography. It's amazing how much money people will pay to get a good picture of their pets. Anyway, it was just her, and she was stressed out all the time. Like, if I'm not doing this, I need to work on my website, or I need to be out selling, or I need to... And so she was always stressed, and she hated being an entrepreneur. And then the problem is she started to hate photography. And where do you see this? Sports athletes. Just because you're passionate about something doesn't mean it's a good idea to start a business. And so what Cuban says, and my dad used to tell me, and I used to poo-poo him, but he was actually right, and that's find something that you're good at. Why? Because if you're good at it, you could be unique and exceptional. And if you're unique or exceptional, you have a chance of making it. So where does your passion go? It goes into making a company, not in the topic. Why do people become entrepreneurs? A lot of them just want to be their own boss or want their own company. And it's very interesting. Goldman Sachs, one of the biggest investment banks in the world, a friend of mine quit, and I was helping her move. And an admin just said to me, the superstars never stay. They have too much drive and vision. And so the best people go out and start their own ventures, do their own things. Here's the crux to tell, do I have an idea? Anytime you come across an idea, expose it to these 3 criteria. And if the answer is yes for all 3 of them, you have the potential to make a company. What I can offer is exceptional or unique, that can make a sustaining profit and good return. So if you're going to take money from someone, can you give them a good return? And it's difficult to copy. Once you get into the market, you got to shut the door behind you, or everybody else is going to come after you. How do I going to make this hard to copy? The crux of it is most things in life can be solved. You can come up with solutions, but the question is, can I make money? And so what you're offering, is there enough money to be a company? Is it worthy of investment? And here's a good example. This is the Mac and Cool Bowl. What this is a hollow bowl you fill with water, you freeze it. So when you put your mac and cheese in it, it cools down right away. Well, when they came up with that idea, my first thought was, people have been doing convective cooling for, probably thousands of years. So why do you need a frozen bowl? And then somebody said, what do you mean? I mean this. I mean, is it worth having a bowl? And the thing is, you have to put this in your kitchen. You got to remember to fill it up. Not only that, anything with water in it, molds is eventually going to start growing in there. How do you clean this thing out? And so, all this inconvenience, and at $5.99 a bowl, is it really worth it? This is a solution to a perceived problem. But the question is, does it really make sense? The number one failure mode in entrepreneurship is marketing. And I'll tell you why that may not be right. But basically, only 1 in 10 companies make it. And despite all this education, a lot of them haven't made it. It's still 1 in 10. So what has been wrong with all this? Because everybody focuses on simple things. The key is to execute. Not all products are suitable for entrepreneurship. However, you still might have an idea that's good for acquisition, that a larger company, if they took it over, and so you can sell it. I have a friend who made biomedical products. He didn't want to get into the industry, so he just made something more than a prototype, and then they would pay him like $10 million for it. And this is what we refer to as right sizing. Why do startups fail? It depends. Do you have a software product, or do you have a product which is a physical good? If it's a physical good, then you have to be really careful how you manage your cash. And are there problems with the product in producing it, or reliability, or things like that? Digital, it tends to fail because the business model is bad, or you have poor market selection, that you can't sell enough of them because you have to sell a lot. An example of a successful product, and you can see this in Amazon, and it's called the Bradley. And what it was is a watch for for blind people. And so blind people, what were blind watches? You press it and it says, it's 2:15. Well, you don't want to announce to everybody. I mean, they don't want people to know that they're blind. And so he came up with the magnetic bearing, where you can just touch it, and actually sighted people buy this watch, because how do you tell time? Well, a lot of you do it with cell phones. You're talking to someone, you pull your cell phone up. Yeah, it's kind of rude, isn't it? So under a table or something, you can touch your Bradley and see what time it is. I'm thinking about getting one. Anyway, the keys to entrepreneurship is, first you need a team. Why? Because you can't do it all alone. You need bandwidth. Resource development. What tools, what people. Think through your networks, or tapping into other people. Do you have the resiliency to do this? Can you grind? You're going to have a lot of failures. Can you take a punch and get back up? Do you understand how to scale? That every time you have an order of magnitude of volume, it takes a new level of discipline. Do you know what that strategy is? And one thing they never talk about, try to get into the woods quickly. Why? Because the deeper you can get into it, all the issues come out, and then you know exactly what you're up against. A lot of people take it slowly and step by step, and all of a sudden they're far down the timeline and they run into something they don't expect. And then it just wipes them out because they took way too much time getting there. Let's get started with our journey.